You're listening to the HNC Let's Talk podcast, hosted by Dexter Brooks. Thanks for tuning in to HNC Let's Talk podcast. We partner with subject matter experts to provide candid conversations on health and lifestyle. Here at HNC Let's Talk podcast, mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and health are all connected. This episode of HNC Let's Talk podcast is sponsored by HealthNet Co. Together, we make insurance simple.
Good afternoon. I'm Dexter Brooks. I'm your host of HNC Let's Talk podcast. Thanks for joining, everyone. So basically, on Great Demand, we decided to bring back our guest that we had a few weeks ago, Demetrius Rayden Johnson. He's going to be talking about rethinking your refund, as well as what you're going to do with that stimulus, or actually how that stimulus is actually set up. And so let's see, Demetrius, are you with us today?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. How are you doing today, Demetrius?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Just, been trying to get some rest, been working really hard lately. The insurance business has been really, really busy as of late. And I haven't even had the opportunity to go see my barber. We're on lockdown here in Denver, and so I'm way past due. So I pardon, the video here of the shaggy hair we got going on. So once we get out of this lockdown, that's the first place I'm going to go.
So that's, everybody's dealing with that can't see a barber type thing. So with me, it's different. Like, it's just every morning, just be through with it. I'm done. I haven't seen a barber shop actually, 30 years. So. Oh,
nice.
Dude, I've been shaving since out of high school. So I was like, nope, no more.
Nice. I've got a long-term relationship with my barber, and in the Black community, the barber shop is kind of an anchor there. And I've been going to the same guy for, I don't know, must be 20 something years now. So, I enjoy going to the barber shop and, helping to patronize a small business and stuff. But yeah, it definitely will save you a lot of money if you're able to do it on your own, or if nature kind of takes its course and takes care of that for you.
Yeah, I understand that. I need to find me one just to do straight razor. I love the straight razor. That's pretty cool. That I can enjoy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, you got it. Next time you're around here in Denver, you got to check out Jelani Mills. He does a great cut, exclusive cuts. I'll give a shout out to him because he always hooks me up. He's been cutting me for a long time.
Awesome. So you're going to talk about today rethinking your refund as well as the stimulus. So first of all, let's talk about the stimulus. How is that actually structured? You were saying something that's not necessarily a refund. It's more or less.
Well, it kind of is a refund. I mean, when you think about how our system is set up, we all pay taxes and throughout the year, and sometimes at the end of the year we get a refund. So you only get a refund on something that you have paid for, and so you get some money back. And so that refund is, something of an overpayment of taxes throughout the year that you get to get back. And so, in working in finance and dealing with investments and insurance and things like that, with little things, so far as a tax refund, that can help to create wealth for a family. It can help to protect the family's wealth. And, just depending on the proper placement of assets, people could leverage their tax refunds and put themselves in a better financial position. And so, that's some of the things that I wanted to talk about today, is just kind of rethinking that tax refund. I know growing up in lower middle class America, that people would budget for that tax refund. They would struggle all throughout the year, and they say, hey, we're waiting on that tax refund money. We're waiting on that money so we can get this, or we can get that, or so we can get some stuff out of the pawn shop. I mean, that's how it was.
Right.
And so
I remember those.
That's just how it was. And so, I want people to, work with what they got. You don't have to make, $500,000 a year. You don't even have to make $100,000 a year to create generational wealth. And so, let's, just talk about what we're doing with that tax refund money every year. You are what you do the most. So are we, using that money to consume and being consumers, or are we using that money to participate, in this economy in such a way that we rise with the tide, and are we investing in the market and participating that way? Because, investors are always very, very interested in what consumers are doing. And so you have to determine who you are. Are you a consumer or are you an investor? And, and through my eyes, you are what you do the most of. And so if you consume more than you invest, then by definition, I would consider you to be more of a consumer. And so, I want people to, rethink, about this money game that we are involved in, and especially within the Black community, because, we are expected to compete with our peers, our Caucasian peers, without the benefit of time. And so the amount of time to create generational wealth within the Black community in the United States is a fraction of what it has been for the Caucasian family. So the ability to hand down things over time, with compounding and all of that taken into consideration, we're really behind the game. And so what is needed is a concentrated and focused effort towards, one, preserving what we have and protecting what we have, and then building on top of that. And so I think, a very small step could be to rethink those tax dollars. Let's really talk about wants versus needs. And so, it's like, do we need to go out there and splurge and catch up on all the Christmas money that we spent, or do we need to, just rethink the budget altogether? Because that's another thing that people do. They spend all that money and then they pay it back, or try to pay it back with their tax refund.
So would you recommend people basically invest their money versus spending their money buying a new car or buying?
I would recommend, if this is not something that you've been doing already, that you should establish yourself an emergency fund of some sort. And I generally recommend at minimum 6 months. Okay. And so we've been talking about in my industry, the 6-month emergency fund for quite some time. And let's talk about what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we know that the majority of people are 1 month away from, being homeless basically. If there was no income and they were held to all their financial obligations, that they would be in big trouble. And so, what we have going on now is a suspension of, evictions and other things. The car companies, they want your business, for a lifetime, and your family's business. So yeah, they're going to give you a few months off, and, and that. So they're going to take care of us in the short term. But, just think, if you had 6 months worth of income just sitting aside, you can say, well, I know all this stuff is going on, but we're going to be all right, at least for a little while, and we can, readjust some things and work from there. So that 6-month emergency fund is essential. And then on top of that, build and talk about, investing and taking advantage of, tax advantaged accounts and that kind of stuff. But yeah, you can easily do that just with refund money.
Yeah, but so you're looking at right now, like the stimulus money, you're looking at $1,200 for just an individual person. Okay.
Right.
Based on their income. And how would they take that $1,200, set it to the side to invest, knowing that they already haven't paid electric bill, gas bill, rent, mortgage, those type of things.
Right.
And say they took risk and they invested that money and put it to the side for an emergency fund. How do they go about contributing to that fund? How do they budget themselves to contribute to that fund so it grows?
Well, that's a good question. And I do want to talk about something that you said. Instead of, paying the electric bill or, whatever, it doesn't necessarily have to be, when it comes to the stimulus money, that $1,200, yeah, things are still due. Your credit, to the best of my knowledge, if you get behind on your credit card bills, they're still going to report that, and it's going to have an adverse effect on you. So yeah, they may be refunding plane tickets and they might be not evicting people, but there will definitely be some sort of financial burden or something that will need to be worked out long term as a result of what's going on right now. There has to be some consideration for the fact that we're facing, a global pandemic. And so, I don't know what that's going to look like, but there's been things that I've seen recently where I guess Democrats are saying, hey, maybe $2,000 a month is what's necessary. It's kind of funny that we had a presidential candidate that was talking about giving some basic income, and then now we run into a situation where that's exactly what's needed. And so
you have a candidate giving income, and all of a sudden we're in a situation now where it's needed for everyone. Yeah, I did see that story today for the first time where the Democrats did mention something about continuation of the stimulus with a $2,000 package until this all blows over. But I'm more than certain that's going to be shot down by the Republicans. If not, it's going to be a hard negotiation.
My question is this: rather than give people money, why not make things less expensive? Why not give things away? Why not reallocate resources? I mean, because there's more than enough hotel space and commercial real estate space to quarantine everybody.
Yeah,
there's
true.
Enough. We waste 40% of all the food that we produce in the United States. Why are we just not focusing on being more efficient with what we have?
I mean, I hear your point.
So,
I do agree with that in a lot of ways. But before we go down that rabbit hole, I want to stay on the money, because that is a great topic for another show, because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
We do utilize a lot of space. Like you said, we have enough real estate there to have quarantine for everyone, which is true. And that's another topic I wanted to talk about, something to the nature of the restructuring. Once we open up the economy, the restructuring of the economy, we may not even need all that extra space. If you're taking these call centers and you're making them to the point where you're social distancing, you don't need that 5,000 square foot space anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Commercial real estate. This is proof and point that you don't necessarily have to have everybody working at these these offices. People can be just as productive at home. And so this is kind of proving that technology has gotten us to a point to where, we don't, we're still exchanging a lot of, our time for money, but we don't necessarily have to be in one physical location for that period of time.
Absolutely.
And so that, this is a kind of a freeing experience for a lot of people that are able to work remotely. There's a lot of people that aren't able to, but, this is kind of showing that it can be done. Now, to get back to, the topic of what are we going to do with this $1,200, I think given the current situation that you should take care of your needs, do whatever is necessary to make sure that you have some self-care, because, you go throw some money into the market with this $1,200 and you're wondering how you're going to feed yourself, or if you're going to get your Trump bucks or whatever, it's like, how can you sleep well at night if you've got money in the market? You're optimistic, you're hoping, and to some extent you're kind of gambling, because it's like, yeah, we do know, I'm of a firm belief that the market will recover and things will be fine over the long term. Don't know when, there's no guarantee to know that. If you get this $1,200 and say you're a family of 4 or 5, I recommend, again, talking to a financial professional, talking to a budget specialist, someone that can, help you to most efficiently use the dollars that you currently have available to maintain your situation or to improve upon it. So that's what I personally would recommend to do with this money. If it were me, that's what I would do, because most middle-class Americans I wouldn't put my money, if it was my only money and I'm waiting on it and I'm depending on it, I wouldn't put that money into the market right now. Ordinarily, this year not being the case, if it's another year, any other time, when I get that tax refund money, I want that money working for me every year. I want that money in the market working for me, because it's my money anyway. I mean, I'm getting it back and the government is making money on it while it's been overpaid throughout the year. On a macro level, if you're overpaying throughout the year and then you get the money back, the government is just not keeping that money idle. That money is earning interest somewhere.
Interest somewhere, correct.
And so
sitting on the bucket.
Yeah.
Somewhere
Yeah.
invested. That is so true.
It's somewhere. And so when we get our tax refund, it's not like our refund plus interest. That would be nice. But we'll talk about that another time. But I think people should just really budget this money. I'm the big proponent of participating in the market and investing and life insurance and all of that. But right now, I think what's really important is people's mental well-being and their personal safety. And yeah, there are opportunities out there in the market that you might be able to capitalize on. And if you have the means, and you're not going to lose sleep, about it overnight, then yeah, there are a lot of opportunities out there. We can talk about that. There's a lot of companies that are undervalued. There are companies that we know are not going anywhere anytime soon. And, they're trading at a discount. And so, I'm not going to give, any specific recommendations, but, I think that people should really look at what's out there and kind of determine, where the buy opportunities are. I'm not going to go, full Jim Cramer on you, but, but I definitely think that people should be paying attention. They should be looking at the market. They should also not just be looking at the stock market. Let's talk about this. Not just look at the stock market. Look at the debt market, the other side of the coin. So we talked about during our last meeting that, yes, there's both stocks, which is equity in a company, and then there's bonds, which is debt ownership of a company, debt that's owed. So like when a company goes bankrupt, on paper, they've got to pay all their debts.
Correct.
And so bond holders get paid out. Now, people that own shares of the stock, they don't get anything. The stock goes down to zero, it's nothing. And so, but the bondholders have to get paid out. Things get liquidated, the assets get, liquidated, however all that works, and then, the bondholders get paid out because it's on their balance sheet.
Tell you about another topic too. That would be a great topic about that, because I don't think people realize that. They think about the stock, like you say, but they don't think about the other side of the coin.
Oh yeah, that and the investing can happen on both sides. Investing can happen on the stock side. Investing can happen on the debt side. And so when you invest in debt, in the Black community, we're always used to being subject to the interest of debt. But wait, there's more. You too can participate and earn income on debt, not just be subject to it and have it be a burden on your back. You can also gain interest, yield. When people use specific words like so capital appreciation is the difference in share price. So that's the share price going up and down. A dividend or yield or interest that's paid, those are debt words. Those are words, those are interest that you pay. So like if I loan you $50, at 50%, that's the interest that's being charged on that debt that was, that's been borrowed. Now that's different than if you give me $50 to start my business and I put in $50 and now we're 50% owners of that business. Now you own half of the shares of the business. So now you have equity ownership versus, debt where somebody's paying you back interest on money that you've given them. And so when you're talking about treasury bills and bonds and all that kind of stuff, those are all debt instrument investment vehicles, whereas purchasing stocks or exchange traded funds or mutual funds, those are considered, stock or equity investments.
Absolutely.
So that's something that people should definitely know when they're talking about investment, because it's important.
We was talking earlier about reopening the economy and people going back into the office and not having to go back to the office and this type of nature. The other day I received the email from my insurance carrier, from my auto insurance. And it was like, I give you back 10%, no, it's 15% of your premium because that's traffic. So people not driving.
Right.
So
That's right.
Okay, I'm like, well, when you think about that, now if people really thought about this, if more people work from home, you have less traffic. That means that, that auto insurance premium will drop.
Oh, it will drop tremendously. It will drop quite a bit. And then not only that, because I've had conversations with people about, a 4-day work week or a 3-day work week, the economic or the ecological impact. That's 20% out of 5 days. If you work 4 10-hour shifts at work, you're only going to work 4 days a week instead of 5. That's a 20% reduction in travel back and forth to work. So that saves the employee on gas. The employer gets the same number of hours, and the environment gets one less day of traffic. So, staying at home is helpful in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
as we transition.
It's such a big saving. That's an extra. Just think about it. That can be an extra $50 to $100 in a person's pocket a month. Because from home, they're not having to go to the office. Their insurance premium it's
huge.
So this is a positive thing that we need to think about before jumping back out there into that market. We need to basically really push the governors to say, oh, no. Yeah, we do need to open the economy, but let's open it the right way. The way that it puts money back into the pockets of the people that actually do the work.
Exactly. And that's some of the issue that I have with what's going on right now is that it seems like it is the large corporations who are getting the lion's share of, what we want to call a, stimulus or bailout or whatever you want to call it. And while they may need a lot of money because they're large or whatever, they've had plenty of opportunities just in my lifetime to, prepare and to run a business in such a way to prepare for this type of economic condition. Granted, this is, unprecedented what's going on right now, but, every time something goes on, they've got their hands out asking for tax dollars. And so, while paying dividends and while also increasing salaries of CEOs. And so, for me, I just can't get on board with that line of thinking when it comes to stimulating the economy. And again, in whatever way that, folks want to do it, they try to do this trickle down economics thing, thinking that, we're going to pay all these, the big corporations all this money and it's going to come down. It's not as simple as that. There are other factors that come into play. There's inflation, the consumer price index goes up, the cost of goods goes up, and then we enter into trade wars and all kinds of stuff goes on. And so it's, you have to be a little bit more responsible with how you handle the tax dollars. Why aren't politicians held to a fiduciary standard when it comes to the citizens' tax dollars? Like when as a life insurance person, or as, whenever I was securities licensed, or, I had my Series 65 in both capacities as a life insurance producer and as an investment advisor, I was held to a fiduciary standard. And so, I think that these, some of these politicians are custodians of our money, our tax dollars. So they should be held to some sort of standard. And, when you see them selling shares of stock right in advance of knowledge of, some big time news that's going to come out,
insider trading.
Insider trading. I mean, if you're gonna get Martha Stewart, man, you got to get these guys too.
Yep, insider trading. That's right. That's absolutely
insider trading. They're considered insiders of some sort. I would consider them to be some kind of insider. That may not be that that may not be politically correct to say. But yeah, I think that politicians, to some degree should have some sort of fiduciary responsibility and should maybe be considered insiders of some sort, because if you can affect policy and you know how things are going to go one way or the other, then yeah, you can pad your investment account. And so,
Absolutely.
I just think that an evaluation of our current system needs to be taken a look at just in general. Again, when talking to me, Dexter, I can get on my soapbox and, today we want to talk about this $1,200 that people are getting. And, to me, the $1,200 is not that big of a deal. It's a nice to have. Whenever I talk to clients about, financial planning and retirement planning and all that, we don't even talk about Social Security. Social Security it may come up, but if you're a client of mine, Social Security is like icing on the cake. It's just like, something you just get, because if we follow the plan, then, a couple $1,000s a month is not, it's not gonna make you or break you one way or the other. So,
True.
I know that in the middle class families, we depend on Social Security. We depend on a lot of things. And so, because, we depend on the system, now granted, we pay into that system. And so we should get some benefit from that anyway. It's our money. But, I want, especially in the Black community, for us to have conversations about not necessarily becoming self-sufficient and self-sustaining, but to getting to that next level of saying, all right, now we have got a large percentage, a decent percentage, a proportionately appropriate or whatever percentage of people in the Black community who are wealthy and who are passing along wealth, and not just athletes and not just singers and not, entertainers.
Passing along what we call old money.
Yes, we want to pass along old money. Exactly, Dexter. Old money. That's what we want to create, is old money. And so there's some of it that's out there already, but we have to make sure that it's not an anomaly, that it's the norm. I don't like it when, that's one of the reasons why I left the industry, was because I was like, hey, man, I got to help my community out, man. I mean, there is a lack of resources. A lot of these financial advisors that are really good at what they do, they're not focused necessarily on my community, and that's not their problem. I can't fault them for that. But, I can do something about it. I feel like, hey, I've been doing this for 20 years. If I can just go out there and, just be a resource, that would be kind of helpful. I've got some ways or some ideas about how generational wealth can be created in our community on a more aggressive curve is what I'm looking for. Because you can't substitute for time, but you can change the curve to be a little bit more, aggressive. That's, I like that word.
Absolutely. That's why, when we was talking about the Social Security piece, and it sort of was very disappointing to me, because, people got that $1,200 stimulus check today, but the people that actually do earn Social Security, they won't receive theirs for 2 to 3 more weeks. I'm like, those should have been the first people should have gotten their Social Security check, because they was already in the system.
Right.
And all you had to do was hit a switch.
Well, I agree with you. That's how it should have been. But we have to consider that where we are working in bizarro world, where everything is the exact opposite of the way that it should be. So
there was no need to look for their bank accounts. There was no need for it, because all of that is already automatically there. They should have been the first ones receiving their check before anybody else received theirs automatically. So I
totally agree.
I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either. I don't know why. I think maybe it was because they wanted to make sure that Donald Trump's signature was on those checks. That's what I've heard as of late.
Yeah, that's what I hear was going to happen too. And the sad thing about it, most people probably would just take a picture of it and just, go ahead and just don't even look at the signature. Just take a picture of the electronic deposit and be through with it. Use
and
the
be done with
smartphone.
it.
Yeah, use the smartphone. Don't even sign it. Just use the This is my thing. I wouldn't even sign. I would use a smartphone and just go through it, be through with it, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
thankful that I can do. Mine was electronically deposited, and I have to worry about that, the check piece. But because I really don't want to see his name on a check.
Well, that was my thing. That's why I was like, well, I don't even know if I want this check, because if I have to get a physical check, then I don't even want to have to go to the bank with his with his name on the check.
I mean, and you know, I know Trump defenders always say people hate Trump, and I'll be honest, I don't hate Trump because I don't know him.
Right.
You know, so why I can't hate a person I don't know. You can only hate someone when you know them. You know, do I agree with his policies? No. Do I agree with all his policies? No. Do I agree with his attitude? No. Do I agree with the fact that he locked kids up in cages? No. Do I agree with it? He called people, you know, neighborhoods trash and racist? No. So those are the things I don't agree with, you know, but so why do I want his check? No, thank you. I'm sorry. And I don't look at it as being his check. Why should he sign it? The way I look at it, like I tell everybody, it's your money. You earned it.
It's your money.
It has always been your money. You earned it.
Exactly. And that which brings us to the other part of this conversation is, you know, where does this money come from? You know, this is not a handout. This is not Donald Trump is not writing you a check out of his checkbook. This is not his salary that he's been donating, you know, or whatever. This is not, you know, his name. He had to make a special case to have his name on this check because it's just normally not done. And so he did it for one of two reasons. To, you know, one, because out of ego.
Election year.
Election year. Get your Donald Trump check. He's like, don't you forget who gave you this money. And so, you know, and I think that was, you know, I watched the comic books or comic book movies and stuff like that. And there was Batman and, you know, the Joker, you know, in the old Batman movies, the very first series, he's, you know, going up and down the street in a parade and he's like throwing out money, you know, and he's the bad guy. And he's like, that's how you get people to love you is you know, just give them money. And so this is kind of what that feels like a little bit. And, you know,
but it's like you say, it's not,
given the fact that I know
it's not his money. This is everybody else. This is the money that
it's everybody's money. It's a refund. It's, to me, the way that I look at this, they call it a stimulus, you know, whatever they want to call it. I call this a refund adjustment. There's been a system malfunction in our, you know, and this is an adjustment to compensate for, you know, a faulty system, or, you know, for something that's happened, you know, and so there has to be, this has to be reconciled one way or the other. And so from a financial standpoint, you know, it's just numbers on a screen, you know, oh, now we're going to spend, you know, $1 million on this and $3 billion on that. And, you know, it's all on debt anyway. So, you know, we're showing right now that America has the resources to do a lot of things. We have the money to solve a lot of problems. It's just a matter of what we choose to do with that money.
Thank you. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that has been my main thing that has been in my mind ever since COVID-19 came through the door. It's like, yes, it's a curse, but it's also a blessing. The blessing to this, we saw that what we can do without having to go into the office. We noticed that our infrastructure, not our infrastructure from roads, streets, and bridges, but our technology infrastructure has been broken. It needed to be expanded. This is where we should be, period, without a virus. People should already been working from home. Telemedicine should already been keep in the field.
Right.
That should have been like 10 years ago. That should have been just out there, telemedicine. And now we're doing it now because what? Because of COVID-19? No, this is where we should have been 20 years ago. Already telemedicine, already 90% of the Americans working from home. Just that simple. We don't need to go back to the old ages. So you're going to open up the economy, open it up the right way.
Do it the right way. Don't do it in an irresponsible way, because, you know, like we talked about in our first conversation, the market was already on a particular path. It was on a trajectory.
We did talk about that. We did. Yes, we did.
Yeah, it was already going somewhere. And so, you know, my thing is this, is that in my industry, they have been talking about what's going on right now, not COVID, you know, or whatever, but so far as our economy. Okay. When I first got into the industry, working at an investment firm that I won't say, but they would say, by 2020, China is going to be the world biggest economy or whatever. And so they're going to be, the biggest. And then they were saying that, there's this, what they've coined now as the silver tsunami, which is, basically the greatest wealth transfer in American history is, from the baby boomers passing away and this going on to Gen Xers and millennials or whatever. It's a huge sum of money. And so, what's happening is that, in my opinion, is that there is an artificial acceleration of something that was already happening to begin with, which was a slimming down of the middle class. And, we all know that we need to have at least, 3 primary classes. You have to have, I mean, I don't know that you have to, but based on based on the way things are set up, that we have a lower and a middle and a high. And, you can subdivide those up and call 1%ers or 10%ers or whatever. But basically, you've got, middle class people, well-off people, and poor people. And, with automation, with people looking forward and saying, hey, we've got robotics and manufacturing that we're going to bring back to the U.S. We're going to, a lot of these people we don't need anymore. Our workforce is going to change. We went through the industrial period or whatever, and now it's another change. It's the end of an era. It's the end of a particular way of doing things. And so what I feel like is that the current administration is, one, accelerating that process, and 2, figuring out ways that they can benefit from it financially, to be quite honest.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned about China. Yes, we do need to bring a lot of our manufacturing back over to the States. I agree with that 100%. And the fact that majority of our healthcare supplies are basically produced in China. I mean, this is why we couldn't do any testing. We didn't have supplies.
Well, but there's a right way to do it, and just like you were saying before, you can't do it haphazardly, and I feel like our president has had something against China for quite some time, and so he always feels like that they're taking advantage of us one way or the other, and
but
whatever
I disagree with him saying they're taking advantage of us, because if that was the case when he got into office, all the patents that Ivanka Trump received once he got into office, why have those patents? You thinking they taking advantage of us? Why did you go and file for those patents?
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, I mean, she's got buku of patents in China. As soon as he got into office, they approved every single.
Oh, yeah.
That was waiting in line. Every single one of them got approved.
I think I did hear about that. I think I did remember hearing something about that. And that's the thing, is where is the responsibility? Where is the, I don't know, ethics committee? Where are the people who are saying, hey, you shouldn't do this?
Yeah,
it's not normal. It's not normal to have politicians act in this way with,
that they've been there. The House has been there doing their due diligence on the check and balances. I give them kudos for what they've been doing. But again, it all falls back down to politics, stating that, oh yeah, they hate Donald Trump. You're not a Trumper.
Yeah.
When it's basically legally, they're just basically saying, no, that is illegal. You're not supposed to do that, because no one else could do that if he was in office, no matter whether it was white, Trump, or anyone else.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, and not necessarily to steer the conversation to politics, but since we're talking about the stimulus and this basic refund adjustment, I'm going to call it, I oftentimes compare what would happen if Obama was in this situation or that situation, and there's at least 20 or 30 different times where I felt like if Obama had done that, he would have been impeached. And, so, there's another thing that's being highlighted is a lot of privilege is being highlighted. Yes. We're seeing on a world stage, what somebody can get away with. And, because there's no way that Barack Obama would have been able to get away with half of this stuff. And so, we have to ask ourselves why. Why is that the case? Once we acknowledge that Obama could not have done this, then that is the beginning of, the conversation about what the problem is. And so, I'll leave that, where it lays. But I think that, our current condition is such that, people need to be thinking about, yes, their health and then what have you. And I don't want to minimize the issue of with COVID and things. I also don't want people to get into, an unhealthy state of mind about it either. There is, yes, the money side of things, and there's also the health side of things. And, people don't like to acknowledge it, or maybe they don't just realize it, but, all this stuff is interconnected. Financial well-being is interconnected with, mental and emotional well-being. If 55% of marriages end in divorce, and 50% of those are as a result of money, then 25% of all divorces are ending because of money. So money and finances has an effect on potentially your relationships, your emotions, your mental well-being. They talk about, what is it, Laszlo? I don't know if I'm saying it right. Is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs or something like that? Where, if you don't have certain basic needs met, then, it's unhealthy for you. If you got to have food, shelter, water, these basic things just to have wellness. And so, when those things come into danger as a result of either a pandemic or, just some general illness, it can have a mental and emotional effect on you. And so, I work in life insurance. I know, folks work in health insurance and things. And, I know people that are therapists, and, when you talk about having a holistic approach to, financial wellness, one of the things that is one of my goals is to connect all of these resources together for people to say, hey, yeah, we're going to talk about money and stuff, but how are you doing?
Absolutely.
How are you, how are you doing? Because all of the money in the world is for naught if you are, in a mental and emotional state of distress. And, we've seen that played out in Hollywood countless times.
So what would you like to leave the audience with for a thought for the day when it comes to rethinking your refund?
Rethinking your refund. One, I want people to realize that this is not a check that the government is just giving you. This is your money being returned back to you. And I want people to think about what they're going to do with that money. Are they including this as part of their annual budget, or are they using it to improve their financial situation? Okay. If you budget properly for 12 months, at minimum, then your refund should be icing. It should be extra money. And so with that extra money, you got 2 or 3 kids and you filing head of household and all stuff, you're getting a couple $1,000s a year. You can max out your Roth IRA with that, with your tax refund. And that's doing better than most people. So, I want people to think about that and to be opportunistic, to think about what's going on in the market now, and whether, think about number 1 rule of investing: buy low and sell high, and think about where we are and then make some decisions.
Absolutely. All right, Demetrius, I definitely want to thank you for joining us again today on the HNC Let's Talk podcast. We do need to bring you back because we got a lot to catch up on. Just this coming today's show that we got a lot of things to cover here,
Oh yeah. There's plenty to cover. And, I love talking with you. And these are conversations that I think we really need to have. So I'm really excited to be here on your platform and being a resource and having this conversation, because it's something that I think is past due. There's been a lot of people that have been out there giving a lot of bad information that are just on a big, platform to do that. And so people listen to them, but what really needs to happen is to have these type of candid conversations about what's really going on. And so I appreciate you for that.
You're very welcome. Again, Demetrius, thanks so much for joining HNC Let's Talk podcast. And until next time, and hopefully that'll be very, very soon, have a great day and be well, as they say.